Hello. I'm happy to be here today to read from my new book, The Wysman. It's so new that it isn't out yet. It's not out until June 27th. And I don't even have a copy yet because, as I said, it's not out. I do have the cover, which I think is very pretty. And I do have the manuscript I wrote, and that's what I'm going to read from. This book, The Wysman, is a sequel to my previous book, The Wind Reader, which is here in the Garland's library. And this book is about three street kids, Donover, Dilly, and Jarka, who are, palling around together. And Donover in that book is the central character in here. Jarka and Dilly are secondary. And at the end of the book, the kids all split up, and Donover's story is done. But I got interested in Jarka while I was writing The Wind Reader, and I decided he needed his own book. So, for one thing, Jarka was born with a crooked foot, like what we would call today a club foot. And in the world of the book, the gods never take something away without giving something back. So, someone like Jarka, with this obvious physical disability, would get a gift from the gods. And in his case, the gift is the gift of wind reading. He can read the secrets that are carried on the wind. And as a consequence, he's been taken into the castle to train to be an advisor for the king because he has this information that should be useful. So he's living in the castle, and life is good, or better, but he remembers his street kid past, and that's the setup for the book. So I'm going to read chapter 1. The advisor, the kind of advisor he is called a wise man, which is where the title of the book comes from. Wise men and wise women arise in every generation. The faithful know them by their courage and wisdom and by their selfless care for the weak and needy. And that's a quote from the Book of the Wise that starts the book. Chapter 1. As soon as I stepped out into the empty castle courtyard, I felt it. The wind puffed through my clothes and walked a chill finger down my back. It wanted me, and it wanted me now. It had things to tell me then. My heart sped up. I hitched across the courtyard amid signs of the castle household just beginning to stir. Smoke rose from the kitchen chimney. A boy was just vanishing into the stables, carrying a bucket of whatever horses need in the morning. Other than the boy, the wind and I were the only ones around. I hobbled through the gate from the main courtyard into the keep around the old tower. Damp shadows pooled inside the keep's mossy walls. In the dawn quiet, my crutch thudded even more loudly than usual as I crossed the flagstones toward the stairs leading to the top of the castle wall. "Stop right there, boy!" I jumped, then caged my teeth around a curse. Absorbed in the feel of the wind, I hadn't even noticed the baby-faced guard looking down at me from the walkway. If I'd been that dozy when I lived on the streets, I'd be shivering in just my skin while some thief stole my clothes and sold them, fleas and all, on the other side of town. "Stop. Why?" "You're not allowed up here." The guard rested his hand on the hilt of his sword. I'd not seen him before, so he was new and nervous as a fresh gang recruit guarding his territory. His accent said he was from somewhere deep in the farm country of Longgrass. I hesitated. The castle was still new territory for me, too. How hard could I push? Horsespit. Prince Baron himself picked me to be his wise man someday because I can read the wind. I do it up there every morning. When I'm on duty, you don't. A smudge of struggling mustache quivered on the guard's upper lip. As a matter of fact, I'm banning you from the keep while I'm guarding it. That stuff you fool with is dangerous. He shuddered. Sorcery. Don't call it that. The divine powers move in all the elements. When I read the wind, I just channel their energy. All our ancestors used to do it. don't care. We're civilized now. A gust of wind slapped my hair against my cheeks. Hurry, it demanded. I'm coming up, I said. Move away if you don't like it. One eye on the guard, I set my good foot on the first step and dragged the crooked foot and my crutch after me. The guard watched for a wild-eyed moment before backing away to give me room. My shoulders eased. The guard and his sword could just stay over there where the wall turned. I heaved myself up the last step and looked over the parapet. The fields on the other side of the river still lay quiet in the new day. A yellow-green haze of shoots blanketed the recently planted earth. Once again, the world was reborn. There'd be much worth celebrating at the Feast of Dark Light 4 days from now, assuming you had the coin. But then, most days were worth celebrating if you had the coin. The wind flung grit into my face. I'm coming, I thought. Keep your trousers on. When I reached the place where the crenellations were wider apart, I slid the leather bag off my shoulder onto the flat stone between them, undid the flap, and pulled out the bundle of carved wooden pieces. One tug on the leather thong, and the pieces snapped erect to become my wind-reading box. I brushed my finger, and by the way, a wind-reading box looks kind of like that. I brushed my fingers reverently over one rune-carved side, still awed by the box's beauty, even now, half a year after Prince Baron had given it to me. The runes dated from the long-ago times of the wise ones. Since then, Rinlanders had acquired a learning and a holy faith, or, as the baby-faced guard would put it, the country had become civilized. Underlying it all, though, the wild forces of elemental energy still lingered. I'd felt it in the streets of Rin City, and here in the castle, it was so strong it shocked me that most folks didn't even notice it was there. Beneath my fingertips, the box throbbed with it, making the earthy taste of it pool in my mouth. My heart pulsed in my throat. From my bag, I pulled the velvet pouch and dumped a heap of bright confetti into my palm. I closed my eyes and stilled my thoughts. Hush. Let go. Make space for the powers. Let go. Like water pouring into an empty pitcher, an energy that wasn't mine flooded me from hair to heel. My eyes snapped open. I glimpsed the guard edging closer, but I fenced out all thoughts of anything else, stared into the wind box, and chose the invocation. The powers move in the wind, I murmured. Wind sweeps between earth and sky. It whispers of where it's been and where it's going. I humbly beg you, Mother Earth, Father Sky, use the white of the north wind. I flung some of the paper bits into the box, and a faint wisp of pine woods tickled my nose. The blue of the east wind. I threw a second pinch of paper. In my mind's eye, a pheasant soared from a field into an endless sky. The red of the south wind. More paper bits. Heat and the smell of salt water brushed across my face. The green of the west wind. I tossed the last of the colored paper. The trees of a great forest rustled in my ears. Tell me what lies ahead, behind, and beyond for your child, Jarka. A finger of wind slid through the holes in the runes and swirled the paper in the wind box. I puffed out my cheeks and blew, mixing my breath with the wind, tuning it to my life and the things that mattered to me. The wind-blown world jumped to life so strongly my head spun. All things that had ever been or would be left their marks, and I felt as if the wind were trying to blow them all into my brain at once. It spun itself into a tight whirl and blew a sharp, flowery scent up my nose, just before my head exploded in pain. Stark terror froze my heart, then vanished into a cold dark. I twisted away, and from the outside now I saw a tall figure fling a shorter one to the ground. With a wordless cry, I jerked all the way free of the vision. "What have you called up?" The guard tripped closer, his eyes wide enough to show white at all the edges, his round cheeks drained of color. "Stop it!" Struggling for enough air to speak, I shook my head. Finally, I managed to choke out, "Believe me, if I could, I would." I peered into the wind box, swearing under my breath. The only thing I saw now was fluttering paper. I wouldn't be able to read for myself again until the wind had something new to show me. I stood over the box, breathing hard. Someone had hurt or would hurt a smaller person. My mind raced. This was my reading, so the vision must be connected to me somehow. Who would I care about? My thoughts flew like an arrow to Cousin Lissa and her daughter, Izzy. Could Lissa's new husband, Clovian, have hurt one of them or be about to? As far as I knew, Clovian had never hit Izzy, but he slapped Lissa around and had once beaten me savagely enough to make me head out the door. Not that I cared. Life on the streets had been better. Come to think of it, could that beating be what I saw? The powers knew I relived it often enough in my nightmares, and the wind mixed up past, present, and future like a cook stirring stew. A familiar flush of shame washed through me at the memory. I'd been 15 when Clovian beat me bloody. I should have been able to fight him off. Should have been able to keep him from hitting my cousin, too. I lifted the tip of my crutch and thumped it down again. My ears told me the rest of the castle was waking up. From the main courtyard came the sound of running boots and the stable master shouting for a groom. Perched on the wall, I could see the city sloping down the hill outside the castle gates in a rolling sea of golden thatched roofs. The streets were beginning to stir there, too. I should check on Lissa. If Clovian had hit her again, maybe I could finally convince her to leave him. Not right away, though. Clovian would take an hour or so to open the tailor shop and then be off to the broken cart for his morning mug of ale. If I waited, the coast would be clear. I realized I'd crushed the velvet bag in my hand. That cold blank near the vision's end made me nervous. I'd never felt it before, and it was too much like, well, how I imagined death would feel. I scraped up the paper bits, collapsed the box, stuffed it into my bag, and worked my way slowly down the steps. From the corner of my eye, I could see the guard making shooing motions to hurry me along. When I passed through the gate to the main courtyard, I found stable hands, kitchen workers, and guards, all streaming toward the great hall for morning prayers. I sped up, meaning to stow my bag in my room and hustle to the hall. Serving at morning prayers was one of my apprentice duties. If I was late, everyone would know, and at morning prayers, everyone included the king. All I needed was for him to decide I was useless and kick me out the way Clovian had. I shook my head. I wished Clovian out of it almost as much as I wished Lissa out of his house. Stone me if I didn't make sure both wishes came true the first day Baron named me his Wysman, and I could borrow his power to turn the tower guards loose on people like Clovian. And that is the end of chapter 1. And as I said, the book isn't out yet. It's available for pre-order if you're interested on Amazon and every place like that. If you want to, I will eventually have copies in my unit, and you can let me know, and I can get them to you too if you're interested. So thank you for listening. I loved reading this for you, and I thank Lynn and Nate for setting it up and doing all the real work here.